Good evening. Let me just check my sound one more time. Okay. Looks like we got signal. All right, very good. Very good. So, I had an issue last night where my sound cut out for about 15 minutes. And I made a promise to do the stream all over again because it's necessary info. And so we're going to be going over stuff having to do with commanding respect. Commanding respect. So let me just go find this. Hope everyone's having a fine day, fine evening, whenever you're watching this. Where are we? Not sexual dominance. That's a different topic. Different topic altogether. Let me just look for it this way. Respect. Pardon me, just trying to find this stuff. Got a lot of notes. And I thought I had it set up. I thought I had it set up for you guys. So just bear with me while I find this shit. Psychology, power of attraction. Oh, okay, here we go. So, commanding respect. We're going to be going through this again. And it's important to note that commanding respect is not the same as demanding respect, okay? We don't want to be the kind of guy who fucking demands respect. A good example of that is if you've watched Game of Thrones and you saw the character Joffrey, that teenage boy who became king, and he was awful, right? And he knew that nobody liked him. And so he forced people to be obedient to him. And they feared him. Like he had respect, but it was respect based out of fear. And that's not real. You know what I'm saying? Oh shit, hold on a second. Left my drink over on the other table. All right, so we don't want to be like Joffrey in that we're demanding people respect us. Like that's pathetic, right? We don't want to be pathetic. We just want people to respect us as men, right? And this is the sort of thing that comes about through presence. It's not really anything that you actually do. It's something that you cultivate, right? And this is what's important, is learning how to cultivate this so it's just something that naturally happens. Okay? Oh, need my banner up. Only submissive women deserve guidance. You know, I see this like all the time. You know, like I hang out in Clubhouse from time to time and I don't interact much. I just listen. And there's guys on there giving guidance to women who aren't their women. That sort of shit just fucking blows my mind. Like, why would you advise a woman who isn't under you, who doesn't respect you, who doesn't revere you? That makes no fucking sense whatsoever. I don't know. Blows my mind. But, you know, if you guys, you guys want to waste your time telling women who are not under you what to do and how to think and how to speak, then, you know, that's up to you. But I don't want to fucking do that shit. So, and like doing stuff like that doesn't gain you respect. Like you're like, these guys are trying to show women that they're wise. They're trying to show women that they've got good counsel. And that's just not how it fucking works. Like, you can't show off, you can't prove it to people, okay? It just comes off of you. And then the women want to follow you, and that's just how it goes. It's just a natural progression of things. And if it's not happening, it's something that's missing in your life, then I would say that you need to look in yourself and see, well, you know, what is it about you that is not garnering this natural progression toward respect and reverence? Okay. So let's break it down a little bit about commanding respect. So the first area is body language and voice. Okay. So respect is not requested. We've already determined that it's not demanded, right? It's commanded without words, without effort, without compromise. Before man speaks, his posture has already spoken for him. So before he acts, his presence has already claimed. And before a woman tests him, his very being has already answered. Like, he doesn't need to verbally push back against anything, right? His presence alone. Like, my girls, they don't test me. They don't do any sort of shit like that. It's beyond their scope of reasoning. And mostly because the feeling they get from my presence does not inspire them to test me, right? Now, that's not to be confused with playful testing, right? That's a totally different story. That's done in the spirit of play. I'm talking about like real testing, okay? So before a woman tests him, his being is already answering her. And then, so here's a quote from the mystical tomes that I'm going to be putting together. They're not real, but they're going to sound like they're real. And this one's called Maxims of the Sovereign Path. And the quote is as follows: "Power precedes proclamation. The man who must explain himself has already surrendered." You don't want to have to explain yourself. Like, if you have to explain yourself, well, then you're not that guy. It's pretty much simple as that. And this falls under the categories of Deering, right? So if you're not familiar with Deering, it's an acronym, DEER: defend, excuse, explain, and rationalize. If you're having to do this shit to women, you're not the guy. If you have to defend yourself, explain yourself, excuse yourself, or rationalize yourself, you're trying to make up for the fact that you're not in the position that you wish you were, or that you think you're in. So the lesson here is the anatomy of that unspoken dominance. So the subtle cues that make a man be perceived as dominant, and you have to train your presence before you train your words. These are not affectations or borrowed poses or anything like that. They're physical rituals of masculine power, okay? So the first one is eye contact, right? Hold it, don't break it unless you decide. Use silence while staring, and it creates tension that she must resolve. Blink less and move your eyes deliberately. A predator, not prey. So whenever you meet someone, it could be a woman, could be a man, it doesn't matter. When you meet them, look them in the eyes and hold that gaze, because there's a bit of energy that courses between you and the viewer, and it's like there can be a bit of discomfort with that, because there's some sort of weird connection between humans when we lock eyes. And if you can hold that without having to be strong about it, but more so being relaxed about it, it gives you the dominant position. Like you're saying without saying, I could sit here all fucking day long. And you're nonplussed about it at all. You're undisturbed, right? And so throughout all of these tips that I'm going to be giving you, the whole notion is to be undisturbed. You're unfuckwithable, as my friend James says. So hold your gaze, right? And don't be a fucking creepazoid about it, but just hold it. Hold it with calm energy, like you belong there. You are always there, and it's not a problem for you. Moving on here with other subtle cues is facial expressions. So you want to remain neutral, grounded, unamused, unless you choose to be. A slight smirk implies command. Over smiling implies need. So whenever someone has the ability to move you emotionally, let's say a comedian, right? That is a form of manipulation. They're using their words to reshape the direction of your mind such that you lose control and laugh. Now, you might be saying, well, that's laughter. Like, why would laughing be a bad thing? Okay, and laughing isn't a bad thing on its own, but you need to understand the architecture here, right? And you should be able to control yourself. If you feel like laughing, you will laugh. If you don't feel like laughing, you're not going to laugh. Your reactions are under your control. Just in the same way that if you don't feel like getting angry, you're not going to get angry. You're not going to get sad. You're not going to get depressed. You're not going to get frustrated. And you're not going to get happy. You're not going to be joyous. You're not going to have gut-wrenching laughs until you choose it. You can choose to be angry. You can choose to be happy. But the strongest position is to have your default position to be neutral. This is the most strong position you could have. And last night, I believe I made the reference to James Bond, right? And my favorite version of James Bond is the Sean Connery version. He had the most style, the most class. He womanized. He flirted. He flirted with death. He was just an overall like really cool guy, and he was high classed about it too. And he was just chill in any scene. He was chill when he was flirting with a woman, and just as chill when he was talking to the bad guy, like the head honcho bad guy, just as chill. He was chill in violent situations. Maybe some steely intensity would be found in his eyes, but otherwise expressionless. And if he did smile, it was just a bit of a smirk, right? And here's the thing. When you do smile, when it's rare, it becomes even more powerful. When you do laugh, it becomes more powerful when it's not all the time, okay? Because people are like, whoa, like he does smile, he does laugh, right? And I get this a lot, okay? There's this grocery store that I go to, and the tellers there are always asking me to smile. And I look at them and they're like, oh, why don't you smile? And I just tell them no. Like, why should I have to? Why, so that you feel more comfortable? And see, that's what it is. My expressionless neutrality makes them uncomfortable. That's not my problem, right? That's their problem, because they can't handle something that they can't read. And they would rather they could read me. So let's just check on you guys here. What's up, All-Star Issy? Or Izzy? So, yeah, going back in here about facial expression, all right? Actually, I don't need to keep this window so wide. I can make that shit skinnier so I don't have to move the thing. All right, so the next thing that you want to pay attention to is your posture, all right? You want your spine to be straight. Don't be hunched. Don't let your shoulders round out, okay? Neck relaxed but upright, okay? Don't let your chin hang out forward like this, right? Keep it pulled in. No fidgeting, no bouncing of knees. Stillness is dominance. So you ever see those guys? Like, I see them, like, I remember being in school and sitting at the lunch table, and there was this kid, and he was always bouncing his knee. He was bouncing the fuck out of his knee, like the entire lunchtime. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on with you? And like, that's a kid. Okay, cool. Lots of energy. But I've seen this with grown adults who are sitting there bouncing the fuck out of their knee for no apparent reason. Or where they have their legs crossed, you know, in that like figure 4 pattern, and their foot is just going like this. Like, what the fuck is going on with their foot? Why can't you just sit still? What, you've got like Tourette's of the foot? Settle down. Relax. Like, why is there so much erratic energy inside you that you have to move something? Okay. Now, maybe they've got some kind of condition. Maybe they got ADD. I don't know. Okay. But if you don't be fidgeting about, right? Remain still. Be calm. Be chill. Be relaxed, right? I mean, look at mob bosses in the movies, right? They're always fucking chill. I mean, until it's time to not be chill. But generally speaking, they're fucking relaxed. So don't bounce, don't fidget, don't hunch your spine. Sit up straight, right? Don't slouch. Slouching's for fucking teenagers. If you're a grown man watching this, don't fucking slouch. All right? Shout out to you guys in the chat. Really appreciate you. So the next thing, moving on here, is gesture economy. All right. Last night, I made a reference to Bruce Lee, and he had a very similar philosophy. He called it the economy of motion. And he studied a lot of martial arts. Okay. And he chose the things that were the simplest and most direct when it came to getting done what he needed to get done, which was to annihilate his opponent and be able to get away. That was the only purpose. So if you look at arts, say like Northern Shaolin Kung Fu, which is the style that I studied when I was living in a temple in upstate New York, and the movements are beautiful, right? It's almost like ballet. It's like fighting ballet, but it's not very practical. You're going to use up a lot of energy doing these movements, okay? And so it's not very economical. In the same way, you want to be very economical with your movement and everything in your thinking. Shit, sorry about that. Clients are blowing me up. So with everything that you do, everything that you say, everything that comes out of you, you want to have a sense of economy about it, okay? So, for example, only move when necessary. And when you do, move slowly. Now, don't be like a fucking sloth about it, right? Like reaching for your glass at the bar like this. People are going to think you're fucking crazy, right? But just be measured and just be measured and deliberate about your movements. Don't be quick. Don't be erratic. Don't jump around, right? Nothing snappy. Nothing that would suggest that there is erratic energy inside you. So the man who is still while others twitch draws all attention. And a scene comes to mind if you've ever seen Lord of the Rings, and they were, what was it, like the two hobbits, they were looking for this guy named Strider, and they heard about him and all this stuff, and they were in the bar, right, drinking their beers, and Strider was there, right, and he had his cloak on, he had this long ass pipe, and he was sitting way in the back of the room with, on a stool, I think with his feet up, and you could barely see his face, and he was just there quietly, relaxed, and observing everything that's been going on. Okay, he wanted to be in a position of advantage by being with his back against the wall so that he could see everything that's going on. All right, and he had that stillness. He wasn't loud, but everybody knew who he was. Now, granted, he had a reputation, but the fact that he moved in that same way, he had the gesture of economy, right? Or the economy of gesture, rather. He drew attention to himself, right? Versus if he was loud with his body and overzealous with his movements and acting out and all that bullshit, okay? You don't want to be like that. So from a quote from The Rites of the First Initiate, the body remembers what the soul has accepted. If he believes he is beneath, wait, I'm sorry. The body remembers what the soul has accepted. If he believes he is beneath no one, the world bends accordingly. So this has to do with understanding that you're it and not waiting for the world to acknowledge this from you, right? So you want to have the position, you want to have the belief and the consistency and the confidence in this is who you are. It has to do with self-acceptance. So the self-acceptance is what goes down and permeates into that stillness. Okay, you can't have stillness if you're filled with self-doubt. It just doesn't work. You can't be dominant and insecure, because everything you do as a dominant, instead of being, but everything you do as a dominant will be done in an effort to compensate for your insecurity. And that's not real domination. It might look like domination, but it's not going to be real. You're compensating. So the sort of thing where it comes down to presence has a lot to do with self-acceptance. And that takes some work. There's some skill, there's some time, there's some pathways to get into the position of self-acceptance where you're no longer rejecting who you are. A good little tip, if you're an AI chat user, if you use GPT or otherwise, ask to give you a lesson plan on how to do Jungian shadow work, and then follow the lesson plan. And this will help you get in touch with your shadow self, which is one of the main reasons why you're disconnected from your identity, because there's parts of you that you'd rather not acknowledge, that you don't like, that you want to just sweep under the rug and pretend isn't there, so your projected ego image can remain safe. So the you that you believe you are, which is like unflawed, can be the thing that you think is out in the world. And you just can't show up that way. You cannot become a man and keep that paradigm going. It won't work. You're living a life of fantasy, not reality. And men are grounded in reality. But in order to do that, you need to dissolve your own illusions about yourself. And this is what creates the foundation for the stillness, because you're no longer doubting who you are. That's the very base of it, is the concept of self. So moving back up, let's bring this back up, right? Away from the depths, and we're going to get into voice control. All right. So voice control is really, really important. It's right up there with appearance. Okay. You hear about that line. What is it like? Girls know that they're going to fuck you, or they're attracted to within like the first 3 seconds of just looking at you, not even meeting you. Okay. Just looking at you. She knows. Or I wouldn't say she knows, but at least from a visual perspective, she knows she's attracted to you from a visual standpoint. Okay. The other part is your voice, because hopefully, if you're not a fucking chicken shit, you're going to talk to the girl. Okay. And your voice is the next thing, like beyond your appearance, at least in terms of this level we're talking about here when it comes to attraction. All right. But your voice is much more complex than just a means of attraction. Okay. So most men speak like they're waiting to be interrupted. You will speak like the room should be grateful you chose to, right? That's the mindset. You will speak like the room should be grateful you chose to speak. That's the mindset that you should have going into this, that the world should be grateful that you're opening your mouth. That's the kind of self-love and confidence that you should have. And again, it's not aggressive confidence where you're forcing people. You don't want to be like Joffrey, okay? You want to be more like Ned Stark. Now, I know he got his head cut off, but, that's beside the point. So when it comes to your voice, you want depth. All right. You want to breathe into your diaphragm and let your voice resonate from your chest. Speak as if your words are being carved into stone, not into the air. So when you're speaking, and you might want to go into YouTube to learn about how to modulate your voice and where it resonates, okay? And you can resonate it up in your sinuses. You can resonate it in your mouth, you can resonate it in your throat, and you can resonate it in your chest. The lower it goes, the more difficult it is, right? Because you have to bring it down in there so that you feel like more accustomed to it. And it takes training, right? That's why there's people who do voice training, like for actors, for singers, all kinds of performers. They go through this training. And it's so that you make commanding presence through your voice. And you might say, well, my voice isn't deep, right? It's all right. It doesn't have to be a fucking baritone. You don't have to sound like Barry White in order to have a commanding voice. You just need to bring it out of the upper chambers of your head and get it away from the nasally area of speech and bring it lower. Bring it into your throat, bring it into your chest, right? So just do some research on YouTube on how to do that, and that'll be really helpful for you. The next thing about your voice beyond depth is pacing, all right? Don't speak too quickly. You don't want to be out here like a fucking chipmunk. I don't care how excited you are, okay? And you shouldn't be all that excited because you are neutral. You have control of your emotions. So the pacing, you want to go slower than you're used to. Silence is power. Tempo, slow tempo is power. And pauses make others lean in. Rushing makes them tune out. So you don't want to be too dramatic with your pauses, but you just get the sense that you're slowing things down. Okay? You're not in a rush. You're not in a rush for anything. Unless there's an emergency, then everything should be relaxed that's coming out of your mouth. You should be super relaxed. It makes when you have a pitch, those put together. You want to have an air of stability, a feeling of stability that comes out of your mouth. It is certainty. You want to have certainty within what you're talking about. So no rising inflection. Clear, don't debate. So, oh shit. All right, so hold on. Thank you, Guns. 1 second. Let's go like this. I brought down the definition. It's because it's been raining here in New York. It's been raining here in New York. So I guess like Wi-Fi is a little weird. But hopefully that helped. Let me know. Let me know if that helped. All right, cool. So let me get back in here. Right, so we were talking about certainty. You're going to want to have certainty in your voice. You don't want to have rising inflections, okay? Where your voice is going with everything you say. I think this is something they do out in California of a younger generation. Like, going to be streaming, right? They raise. If you're going to ask a question, you don't even need to, typically when people are talking and they ask a question, they raise their inflection at the end. That's how questions are usually formed. They say, are you going to the mall later? See, the later just goes up like that. Yep, upspeak. So you can ask it without doing that. Are you going to the mall later? Do you see how that has a totally different feel to it? Or if you slow it down, right? Are you going to the mall later? Like that resonates totally different by just slowing things down. It makes it more deliberate. And the more you slow it down, the more theatrical it gets. So mind yourself there, okay? But just make it into a habit of just slowing things down and have more certainty in your voice. And that means making it fairly monotone. I mean, not too much. You don't want to sound like a fucking bot, but you want to make sure that you're not having too much of like higher. All right. And make sure you declare, don't debate. Don't debate with people. Okay. You see all the time people debating online, people debating like on YouTube, people debating in rooms on like say Clubhouse or whatever, on panels. It's ridiculous, right? Debating is stupid. Unless you're getting paid for it, there's no reason to debate. Like, why would you? Like, if I know the truth, why would I bother talking about it, convincing? It doesn't matter. Okay. Like there's this old Taoist line. It says, those that know don't tell, and those that tell don't know. And like that's what it comes down to. When you are standing solidly on a truth, especially just about yourself or about human behavior or whatever, there's no need to even open your mouth. It's carved. It's carved in stone, not in the air. All right, so the next one here is verbal minimalism. So again, this is something about economy, using only what you need. Shout out to Steve. He always talks about that Eddie Murphy movie called A Thousand Words. You should check that movie out. It's pretty insightful. Like it's not meant to be insightful, but you can utilize what's in there to create insight. So verbal minimalism, fewer words equals greater gravity. And this is kind of like portrayed a lot in say like a movie where there's like like an Asian wise man, right? Old Japanese wise man monk or something like that, or old warrior, and he just has a few words, and it punches, right? It's like a sledgehammer. That's how you want to speak. You don't want to fill in with so many fucking words. Try to get your point across as clearly and concisely as possible. You don't want to be too wordy. Just get it out there. Say the fucking truth. All right? A true dominant man saves his breath for command. So this is something that you want to consider, because if dominance is something that you want to cultivate, or it's something that you want to bring into a lifestyle, say like with BDSM or something like that, you can't be too wordy with things. Okay? Because if you've got a submissive, you have to make your commands very clear and simple, because you don't want any wiggle room for interpretations or anything like that. You want to have it very clear and to the point. So all of this stuff wraps together, whether it's just naturally just showing up as a man, or it's something that you want to do for a lifestyle choice, as far as like bringing, say, BDSM or power dynamics into your life. And from the Iron Litany, the quote goes, "The voice is a weapon, not an ornament. Blunt or sharp, it reveals the hands that holds it." So think about that. Because the way that quote is presented, think of your voice as a representative of you, right? Really consider that. It's a representative. So how you show up visually is a form of representation. And how you sound is also a form of representation. All of these things should be an extension of your being. Right? And you don't want to fake it. That's the thing. Sure, you could be a piece of shit inside. You could hate yourself. You could be full of insecurities and self-criticism. You could be full of hatred. And still change your appearance. And it's not going to change the inside. You could get voice training and sounds like you know what you're talking about or you know how to talk. It's not going to change inside. When you work the inside, these outside presentations change. They naturally take on a different shape because you no longer have to put up a front. You no longer have to assume things, right? Assume an appearance. So, moving on here to walking, standing, and moving like a man who owns the room. Your movement must mirror your internal order. You do not react to the space, you claim it. You treat it as though you belong there, right? So, your walk, shoulders squared, chest open, back upright, and each step is grounded and sure. Okay? You don't want to make these like big lumbering steps. You don't want to walk like a little geisha. All right? Be mindful of your gait. Okay? Like you've seen people like who are walking weird and you know that they don't know that they're walking weird. All right? Now I'm not saying this to make you self-conscious or anything like that, but just understand that this too is an extension of who you are. It's a representation. It's a representative of your internal state. So never glance down, never dodge. Your path is law. Now, it doesn't mean be just shoulders people like, I live in New York City. Like you kind of have to weave a little bit, all right? But you'll notice that when you're more grounded in this mentality, when you're more grounded in this state, people move. Like they give you space. And it's not about you being imposing or them perceiving some potential of violence. It's nothing like that. It's just a vibe. It's just a vibe. And they give you room. Right. And it's not about being big either. Right. It's just being grounded. Grounded has a certain element of gravitas that people can pick up on. So moving on. The entrance, right? Entering spaces, okay? Pause just inside a new space. Like you walk into a room, you're invited to a party or whatever, you're going to a banquet, you're going to a nightclub, a bar, whatever. It doesn't fucking matter, right? Shit, you could even do it walking into McDonald's. You step in and pause for just a brief second and then move in, okay? There's, like, again, this is, it casts a vibe. Okay, it casts a vibe inward to you and it casts a vibe outward into the space. All right. And survey the space. Get used to scanning your environment. Right. This is for multiple reasons, but one of them is safety. You want to just quickly scan your environment, not like a paranoid fuck, but just someone who wants to get a lay of the land that they're entering. And that's it. There's no judgment or anything attached to it. You just want to see. You want to observe, right? You're just getting a quick read. Okay, I was talking about this last night with how our hindbrains, they go through a series of Fs in milliseconds. Like when you see another person, and it's either flee, fuck, fight, or feast. Flee, fuck, fight, or feast. Yeah, I think that's it. If someone knows of other ones, let me know. But it's, should I run away? Should I fight them? Should I fuck them? Or should I eat them? So your hindbrain goes through these snap decisions in less than a second, in like fractions of a second. Okay. That's why it's important to scan the room, because your instinct will pick up on things, right? And it will give you a signal on whether this is an A-okay space or if it's fucked up, or there's tension or something along those lines. Okay. And trust your gut, right? If you're just like, man, this place doesn't feel right to me, just fucking leave. Okay. Like that's being sovereign. You guys are like, nah, man, come on. What are you doing? Come on. Like, just stay. Just stay. You're like, nah, this space isn't for me. Right. And it's not like, out of fear. It's just, you don't belong there. Your instinct is telling you these things. right? Listen to your instincts. All right, the next one is stillness. All right, stand with feet shoulder width apart, weight evenly distributed. You see guys like, especially like the PUA dudes, they're like, take up space, like talk with your arms out, sit with your arms out on the couch like that, stand with like a wide stance, right? It's like, dude, you're trying way too fucking hard. Just be, okay? Create that gravitational pull by your state of being. You don't have to do these like extra moves in order to get people to give you space or pay attention to you or some shit like that, right? It's not necessary. That's trying way too fucking hard. All right. So yeah, you want to just stand naturally, feet shoulder width apart, straight, weight evenly distributed. You want to like stand on one leg, kicking your hip out, like none of that shit. Okay. Don't do any of that gay shit. And your mentality, right? Your state is you want to be rooted, watchful, as if nothing surprises you and everything answers to you. Now, is that the reality? No. But this is the state and the mindset that you want to cultivate. All right. And then after a while, it just be second nature. You're not going to be thinking about these things consciously. It's just this is what happens when you become grounded, like grounded and rooted in yourself. All right. And then if you're like turning, I know this is stupid, but like you want to make your movements deliberate. Okay. No herky jerky movements, no second guessing type movements. All motion should be carried with purpose, not reaction. Okay. That's really what I'm getting at here. You don't want to be a reactive person when you move. You want everything to be calm, grounded, and deliberate. So, reflections of the Bound and Crowned, the quote goes, "He who moves like a storm must first be as immovable as the stone." So you have to be immovable first before you can move like a storm. All right, so there's some things you can practice, right? There's little ritual sort of things you can do. A daily posture ritual for like 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes at night. So you stand before a mirror, straight spine, relaxed jaw, neutral face. Breathe deep and hold eye contact with yourself and say nothing for 5 minutes. All right. And this is a really weird experience. It's a weird drill to have. But just this notion of just staring at your own eyes. And if you've done any sort of psychedelics, don't do this drill like while you're high. And marijuana is considered, I think, of low-grade psychedelic. So if you don't want to get freaked out, don't do it when you're high. But there's something weird because we see ourselves all the time, right? We see ourselves on video. We see ourselves passing in the mirror. We see ourselves in shop windows as the reflection. We see ourselves in pictures. But it's not often that we stand there with just ourselves, with no distractions, and staring directly into our own eyes. All right. And watch what happens with your mind. Okay. Treat it like a meditative practice. And you're going to find that standing there for 5 minutes might be difficult. All right. But just do it. Do it religiously, and you will notice a change. Next, you can do a voice command exercise. So you want to record yourself reading a short script in your normal tone, and then re-record it with a slowed pacing, deepened breath, like resonating deeper in your chest with absolute certainty. So you might have to put in your head that you're an actor and you're just assuming a character or something along those lines. And you can even exaggerate it just so you can get further in and just treat it like a character, and then go back and listen to these. Listen to the two recordings, and you can see the difference and the like the audio texture of them and how it makes you feel, like what you pick up on it. And then keep doing these exercises, and then make adjustments in your actual life. All right. The next one is walk of command. Next exercise, at least once a day. Well, maybe not once a day, but make it like a couple times throughout the week. Walk into a public space as if you own it. And this is just, again, it's mentality and it's state. Okay. When you walk into a park, you walk into a bar, you walk into a library, you walk into your university, trick your mind, play a little game that you own that thing. You own the park, you own the university, you own the bar. And imagine if you did, what kind of comfort would you have walking into that space? That's the kind of comfort that you should have, whether you own it or not. So it's a practice in getting into that comfortable mindset of, I fucking belong here. I'm not an intruder. I'm not a visitor. I belong here. That's how comfortable I am. And when you do this repeatedly, you're training your mind to be comfortable anywhere. Right? It's a great skill. One of the earliest ones when I was messing around with my own mind is I would visualize that I had these giant fucking antlers, like moose antlers, coming out of my head. And I had this, like, remember, like in fucking Naruto, when what's his name did the Susanoo, and he had that giant, like, pink armored magical energy samurai all around him, right? It's kind of like that. Like, you just imagine these like big fucking antlers coming off the side of your head, and it does something to your mind. It's weird, okay? But don't be weird about it. Like, walk sideways through doorways and shit. And they're like, why are you walking like that? You know. So don't go that far. But you want to just imagine this, and it try it. It does something very interesting with your mind. Okay, so the lesson summary here is here's an excerpt from the Scrolls of the Bound Flame. He who holds the spine of a lion need not growl. He who breathes as a mountain speaks with thunder. And he who sees the eye meets the eyes, or she who meets the eyes of such a man forgets the name of doubt. She who meets the eyes of such a man forgets the name of doubt. So that's in reference to how it affects women. Okay. When you are doubtless within yourself, this is something that women can pick up on easily. It's a vibe. It's a state. Well, it's a vibe that comes from a state. And this is what they love. They love a man with certainty, because guess what? They're not. Women are so full of uncertainty. It's fucking ridiculous. Even the ones who come off as like super confident and, they're tough and they're grounded and all this shit, that likely more so a front. It's a plastic front. And this is it's something you have to relax into. All right. And again, it comes from stillness. Like, all of this stuff comes from a foundation of stillness as a result of not rejecting yourself anymore, of bringing your shadow and relaxing into who you are, the good shit and the bad shit. Okay. And the neutral shit. This brings about that stillness and that certainty, that lack of doubt, and it radiates off of you, that you're just sure of yourself. And women love that shit. They love being around that feeling because it calms them the fuck down. Because they're fucking erratic. They're fucking got that hamster wheel going around in their head at fucking 12,000 RPMs. They have all that craziness, tornadoes and shit in their head. For you, you want to be the opposite. If their brain is loud, you want yours to be quiet. If theirs is erratic, you want yours to be still. You see what I'm saying? If theirs is full of crazy colors and shit, you want yours to be gray. Okay? What are you talking about? Jack Devani. What's up, buddy? Man, I can command respect all I want, but at the end of the day, women either like you or they don't. If you aren't at least physically attractive to them, confidence will be seen as creepiness. Um, well, you do have a certain point. I mean, if you look like fucking Quasimodo, I'm sorry, but that's just your deck, right? You were dealt a bad genetic deck, and we're not all supposed to win on this planet, and that's just the way it is. So, but commanding respect, first and foremost, has everything to do with yourself. Okay, it's a secondary or even tertiary thing with regard to women. Okay, you should never be wanting to command respect for women so you can get women to respect you. Okay, like that is a big problem all in of itself. Like, why are you seeking the respect of women? Why are you seeking the adoration of women? Why are you seeking the admiration of women or the reverence of women? Right, that's a bigger problem, right? Because that means you're trying to compensate for your own lack within yourself because you hate yourself. You don't respect yourself. You don't have any confidence in yourself. And so you're looking to have this shit given to you from an outside source to make you feel better. And I get it. It's a pretty common thing, right? But no outside source is really going to solve it for you. I'm sorry. But you're right. It is having to do with being physically attractive to a certain degree. Okay, but it has its limitations. All of these things have their limitations. Okay, like yeah, you could have great game. Like you could have fucking like a golden tongue. Okay, it's going to detract if you don't take care of yourself, right? If you've you just your face is fucked up or you look like you were in a house fire, like that's it, it's going to work against you. All right. So I don't just discount all looks, right? It's part of our whole thing. It's how we look at things for like subconsciously, like for health markers and for all sorts of different things. Okay. So yeah, and so part of our mating strategies are superficial for things. We're trying to cultivate all of it, right? And it's not for the sake of women. It's for the sake of yourself, first and foremost, right? Like these women, like what they think, what they want, it doesn't mean shit. It doesn't mean shit at all. I mean, unless you're thirsty for it, and then it means a whole lot. Confidence and self-esteem and loving yourself can't really be learned. Yes, it can. I teach it for a living. It's a side effect from how you are living your life and whether or not you're successful. Absolutely not. There are most people, I would say, have a terrible relationship with themselves, and even the successful, right? Look at like say actors, right? They've got tons of money. They've got droves of people around the world that love them and respect them and would love to just hang out with them and whatever. Okay. They're adored by millions of people. Okay. Yet they've got drug problems. They're in and out of rehabs. They've got 10 fucking therapists, right? Like the shit that they do, they to themselves, they have like PR people who try to keep it out of the public eye. Okay. Like being wealthy and successful, and or even being healthy, that doesn't change the inside thing. All right, you can go to the gym. I know guys who go to the gym and they look fantastic. Okay, they loathe themselves inside, which is why they're going to the gym, because they have dysmorphia. They think they look like a piece of shit, so they just keep working and working and working and working. They're like, no, 4% body fat is too much. It all goes down to the relationship you have to the self. All of this shit. All right. And there's not going to be anything that can solve it for you except self. And that's a weird thing because I'm asking you to pull yourself up by your own bootstraps, right? Or as Alan Watts says, to touch the tip of your finger with the very same finger, because he who is doing the examining is the examined. So it's this weird feedback loop, which is why coaches are helpful, right? Which is why, you know, wise friends or relatives, pastors, you know, anyone who has the skill to get you to see yourself for who you actually are, you know, because it's difficult to do so on your own. Well, this may be the case. Well, I appreciate here. Dealt a bad genetic deck. Because I've seen these black pill forums, okay? And I've seen pictures. They're like, "Oh, rate my picture." Like a bunch of like dudes, like you're so fucking gay and insecure. It's weird as hell. And you're like rating men rating each other's pictures. And I saw ones when I was like, dude, like this kid could be a fucking model. He was like 20 years old, looked fantastic, okay? And he was like, "I'm so ugly." So I don't know, Jack. I don't know. You could be actually genetically deficient and that's it, or you could have this weird version of dysmorphia where you think you're seeing something that you're actually not. So you've seen women respect bums. It's about looks, but it's not up to us, dude. Yeah, you're making, dude, you're making it all about women. Quit dating, and honestly Pornhub is free. Yeah, you got a lot of problems here, dude. You know, yes, you can change how insecure you are. I do it all the time. It doesn't a lot of work. It I would say months of hard work, but it absolutely can be done. Uh, there's it's just what I've been doing for the past 10 years. It's part of it, right? But you know, if you want to talk, get in touch with me. All my contact info is in the descriptions of the videos, and the first call is free. So back into the lesson summary, okay? In silence, you will speak. In stillness, you will command. In the way you are, you will never again need to ask. Right? You see how these phrases that I'm reading here. Let's go back to these quotes from the excerpts from the Scrolls of the Bound Flame. He who holds the spine of a lion need not growl. He who breathes as a mountain speaks with thunder. And she who meets the eyes of such a man forgets the name of doubt. In silence you will speak. In stillness you will command. In the way you are, you will never need to ask again. Do you see how that resonates in a way that you cannot have self rejection and embody those things at the same time? From someone who, you know, who's like Jack, thinks that that all sounds like a bunch of poppycock. It sounds like bullshit. It doesn't make sense, okay? Because it can't get through those hardened walls of self-hatred. As long as you are hating yourself, nothing can grow. Absolutely nothing. Because your foundation is rotten. And if you want to cure it, you can, but you have to have some balls. And you have to accept the fact that in the end, no one may give a shit. But that's not the point. If you're doing it, if the point is to have someone give a shit, well, then you're doing it for the wrong reasons. You're doing it for other people, which means you hate yourself. Your motivation is through self rejection. So it always circles back to that. Always. Everything circles back to how you feel about yourself. If you get a fucking plastic surgery, change your face, get fucking jaw things and a nose and eyebrows and, you know, fix your fucking whatever fucking tilt it's called with eyes, you're still going to hate yourself because it's something internal. It's not based on the external. And it's not going to fix your life. You're going to be a good-looking dude who hates himself. And there's tons of good-looking dudes that hate themselves because your relationship to self is not based on what you look like. Shit. you belong. You belong here. This is fitting, right? Like guns. He's here, and I know he belongs here. He has this, like, the way I'm talking, I know he just started cutting out again, because it's starting to rain. But oh boy, Jack. And you know what? You do have a kernel of truth here, that either a woman likes you or they don't. And there's nothing you can do about those things, right? I don't think free will, well, free will does exist, but that's a whole other thing, Um, but if I could help myself, I would. If I could be attractive, I would have. You can't change how insecure you are. Yeah. I've been insecure my whole life. I've been obese my whole life. My weight fluctuates up and down. And I know for a fact that women give me more of a chance when I'm skinnier. I'm 34. The damage is done. Can't unring a bell. Okay. But these are beliefs, right? So for those of you who are, you can see how your belief fucks with your entire state. And this is detrimental. It's of the utmost importance. Of the utmost importance to control your state, right? Like, yes, you can change the outside. You can go to the gym, you can get a trainer, you can get a nutritionalist and change all these things, but none of that will change how you feel about yourself for anybody. Not just I'm not trying to sorry about that. Yeah, the weather is really fucking with the Wi-Fi out here in the rain hut. Um, well, yeah, I mean that's fine. I mean, if you've accepted defeat, then Jack, then that's just what it is, and that's fine. But you know, no one's gonna come fix it for you. No one's gonna hold your hands. No one's gonna save you. There is no Superman, right? Like, you can either try to fix things or just accept it. That's it. Okay. All right. So before things get even more screwy with my connection here, I'm going to end this stream. Thank you guys very much for coming through on the live, and thank you for those who are catching it on the replay. I appreciate your support. And if you want to get in touch with me, all the contact information is in the description of the video. And yeah, I'd love to hear from you. So set up a call, go to my website, and we will see you guys later. Take it easy.